Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Week 6 edition of In-Season ADP Chasing. No, we did not forget about you guys. We just completely forgot to announce the show was starting late. But we're here, as we are, every Monday, bag defending, victory lapping, panicking. It's the premier in-season best ball show to sweat your bags. Let's do it.
ADP chasing is for when you watch ship chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
And the targets per outrun leagues, that's going to be really nice.
Actually, back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes. All your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a Deuce Vaughn show.
It's anti-cabal. It's anti the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because, I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But, man.
Oh, God.
Hey, Davis. Welcome to the show. To everyone joining here live, we're still waiting for Pat Crane, Patty Millions. I don't know if Rico Dowdle had too good of a game last night that he feels like he doesn't need to show up to these anymore. I'm not exactly sure, but
did he? Because he did score some points, but Rico Dowdle was one Dak heads-up play away from Hunter Lupke starting in Week 6 against Detroit for the Dallas Cowboys.
That was an ugly fumble at the end of the game last night. For people who didn't watch, Rico Dowdle, it was, I think, 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line, and he takes a halfback dive up the middle, tries to do the thing where he dives over the line of scrimmage and just gets blown up. Football squirts out. Dak luckily
that's actually
up, but
that's actually one of the fumbles I think you could see a reasonable coaching staff saying that it's not.
Yeah.
That it's not his fault. Apparently my mic is on the wrong. My mic is on the wrong. I fixed it. There you go.
Yeah. Sounds good. I actually agree with that, Davis, because you got to go for the touchdown there. Fumbling there actually isn't that bad compared to a normal situation because the field goal doesn't help you. Not getting the touchdown doesn't help you. So it's not a great play, but I don't think it's a benchable fumble given the game situation.
I mean, Hunter Lupke would have scored on that play without having to have jumped. He would have just powered through. I really do believe this, by the way. Lupke set up that play with the, what was it, 2nd and 13 or something on the screen. The Lupke thing, dude. I mean, it's Zeke.
He's their use check, I think. I mean, he's a pretty good player out there for them. Yeah.
The issue is that Rico Dowdle is not even Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason could go to 0, or Rico Dowdle could go to 0 at any time. Why was Deuce Vaughn not active last night? Was he injured, or they were just done with it? Dude,
I think it's over for him. You look at all of his efficiency stuff, and he was graded as PFF's worst running back last year. This year he's averaging 2.9 yards per carry, less than Zeke. So I think they're done with that experiment. I actually wonder in Dallas if we get the Dalvin Cook elevation next week and see if he can maybe steal some of Zeke's snaps. Because, dude, Zeke and Vaughn, I think they've seen enough of those guys.
So I actually had Zeke on 2 main event teams because, it's main event and you're in the 11th round and you have 1 running back and it's all right, well, we gotta take Zeke. And I cut him for Bo Melton, which, by the way, might come around to getting there if Dontavian Wicks gets benched.
that could easily still get there. I mean, Romeo Doubs has left the team for. I want to hear his side of the story there because that's a bizarre situation. Dontavian Wicks has the worst hands in the league. Not even a bit. Straight up has the worst hands of any wide receiver in the league right now. So Bo Melton could backdoor into that mattering.
While we're waiting for Crane, if Crane even shows up, let's actually do the Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks things before we get into victory lapping, bag defending, and panic button.
Sure.
Because I think they're pretty clear. I actually don't believe the party line at all. There is no shot that Romeo Doubs walked into Matt LaFleur's office and said, "Throw me the goddamn ball." I don't believe this. I don't believe this at all. It's got to be a personal issue. It's got to be something that we do not know about. Maybe a mental health thing for him. Maybe there's an illness in his family. I just got to be honest. I do not believe that Romeo Doubs, a 5th round rookie out of Nevada, walked in and said, you got to get me the ball more. That feels impossible.
It's also because in the 2 Jordan Love games, the Malik Willis games, I'm kind of willing to throw those out. They were running the ball so much. The 2 Jordan Love games before week 5 this year, he had 6 targets and 8 targets in those 2 games. So like, I don't know. You just get 8 targets in a game and then you're going and complaining about your role like that. That seems crazy. So I'm with you, Davis. I think there's something we don't know here. My like full on galaxy brain idea was like, was there some trade talks with like the
Kansas
Browns
City?
on Amari Cooper or with Kansas City? I don't know, like something where he was being offered as a trade piece somewhere and that got back to him. That's probably unlikely. I think we would have probably heard something about that. It also would be weird to trade Romeo Doubs given his contract situation and everything. So yeah, I think there is something we don't know here. The last reports on Sunday we did get sounded somewhat positive that like
they said he's going to be back this week. We need him. He's still a part of the team. All that stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm with you there. I don't agree the official story. The other thing I wanted to get to while we're waiting for Pat still, still silence from Pat. Not sure what he's up to, but I know the game went really late last night. Did you get a chance to watch that whole game? I guess it sounds like you did because we were talking about the Dowdle.
So I watched the first half and then
Okay.
I went to bed. I was like, all right, enough.
Yeah,
But I watched some of the stuff this morning, the condensed game.
Okay, I asked because I wonder what your thought is on the state of Russell Wilson's calf injury after the game last night.
He's been drinking the recovery water. Is that what he called it? It's like it went from being possibly this might be career ending to he's doing some laps. He's ready.
Mm-hmm.
He's ready to maybe start pushing the sled a little bit. I think. See, the issue is the Steelers play the Raiders this week, so I think his calf would have been feeling better. But I think sadly after this week against the Raiders, he might be on a downturn. And for a team like the Steelers, this is such an underrated thing. But they're probably going to get Jaylen Warren back this week after he missed the last 2 weeks, and just not having Najee Harris out there is a pretty big win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, is Najee Harris, is he Zeke-esque? Like, my God. There we go. There's the man.
There I said I wasn't going to come on until we started talking about how washed Najee Harris was. So here I am.
Dude.
And it's pretty bad, huh?
he is like, I would put him in the Trey Sermon camp of being like, he's got to get 20 touches to get 15 points, man. It's really... Yeah, Najee Harris is just Trey Sermon now.
He's bad. I mean, the fact that Cordarrelle Patterson was instantly so much better than him last week. And did you hear who did they play 2 weeks ago? I'm blanking, but there were some reports that the defenders on whatever team they played 2 weeks ago, I'm blanking, were like shit talking Najee Harris after the game and saying like, oh, yeah, they're saying like, I think Cordarrelle Patterson is number 8, and they're like, yeah, number 8 runs way harder. Like Najee is soft. Like they were shit talking him after the game about how much better CPAT was than him. So that's just that's a tough look for Najee.
No, it's not good.
I think Najee's going to 0, man. I think if Jalen can get this through this PCL injury, maybe even for your Jaylen Warren bags, you would actually prefer him to maybe sit one more week to just let the knee get 100%, because I would actually anticipate, assuming Jaylen Warren is close to healthy, Tomlin's like, Najee, thank you for your service. You've been a great Pittsburgh Steeler, but it's
the final year of his contract. Like they got nothing committed to him after this year. Pat, we did start this in the Steelers topic, talking about the status of Russell Wilson's calf injury. How healthy is his calf feeling after the game last night?
It's a little healthier than it was, but I think it's not fully recovered. It's definitely, it's probably a week or 2 away from being healthy. Depends.
But they get
modern medicine, of course.
They get the Raiders this week though.
Well, yeah, but
it's going to be hurting this week in practice.
It's going to be hurting this
matchup.
week. Yeah.
Dude, look at this run out. Look at this run out that Fields gets. So he gets to play the Raiders, then he gets to play the Jets at home, Does that scream 2 Rodgers pick sixes or what? And then he gets to play the Giants. And then this is where Russell Wilson's calf is gonna. I think he might start on the road at the Commanders, home to the Ravens, home to the Browns, or road to the Browns. Those feel like if Fields is still doing this, then that feels like Russell Wilson.
The problem with the matchup like the Raiders is that, yes, in theory, it's an easy matchup, but if you lose to this version of the Raiders team, that's like a quick trigger benching, I think. Like, I think it could be over quickly if they lose this game.
That's potentially what we just got with the Dolphins, with the Patriots and the Dolphins. Like, I was looking at that game, like, please lose this game. Because if you lose this game, we're getting Drake Maye. It's so embarrassing. You can't lose this game. And I think the Raiders would be the Steelers version of that. Like, you have to beat the Raiders. You just have to, or we're getting, or all of a sudden, like, you guys won't believe it, but they found this new cream and it healed his calf. It's totally good now.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, long time been a fake science guy. Didn't he come out with some water that was supposed to prevent
That's what I was saying. He's got the
nanobubble
water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's very curious over there in Pittsburgh. Let's get to the meat of today's show. We're going to go back to the bag defending, victory lapping, so on and so forth. For people who are new to the show, the quickest way to think about it, victory lapping, think of them as like a buy high player for your redraft leagues. They're guys that have had good performances and we expect that to continue. Think of bag defending sort of like a buy low. This is someone who is probably ranked higher than they performed so well this season, but there's still reasons for optimism, even if they perform poorly so far. And then panic button is kind of like a sell low, or like maybe even, dropping these guys in your redraft leagues. Depends on the context, obviously, but general idea is these guys have been much worse than the preseason expectations were. So we'll go ahead and start here on the positive side with the victory lapping. I'll give it to you first, David, because you were on time today. Gotta punish Pat a little bit with the first quarter suspension, like Keon Coleman for not showing up on time.
I'm gonna be a reminder though. I'm running for a touchdown as soon as you give me the ball.
Mine's very easy. Chase Brown. Chase Brown is probably going to finish as one of the 10 most valuable running backs in fantasy this year. He is getting used in the red zone. He's getting used in the passing game. I believe he doesn't lead the NFL in yards per carry anymore because Tyrone Tracy does after that game against the Seahawks. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly my exact thesis played out. Zach Moss is a total ham and egger who definitely is not going anywhere. But it's
he did get injured. Did you see that at the end of the game?
He came back.
Okay. Yeah, he's all right.
He came back. Okay. He came back in that drive. But they needed a 2-point conversion in the fourth quarter. Chase Brown. They it just the coaches. It's such a funny thing where coaches want to do things their way until they're 1-4 and they have to win a game against the Ravens, and they're like, all right, well, Zach Moss, thank you very much for your service, but what did he get? 3 rushes yesterday, I think.
Is that right?
I didn't think it was that low, but I could be wrong.
I stopped looking at the rushing part of the box score as Jamar Chase's number just kept going higher and higher. But yeah, I do know that here I can pull it up right now. Brown got 12 rushes, 9 for Moss. Brown got 3 targets in the passing game. Moss got 4 and actually had 1 nice little run. But yeah, it's pretty Jover for Moss as the lead back, and Chase Brown is going to get there. Which is not to say there will not be some lean weeks, because there will be, because they still don't trust him in pass protection. But he's the dynamic one there.
Yeah, Pat. I have a slightly different take than Davis here, but curious your thoughts. Are you on board with this?
Yeah, I'm on board with
I agree with the
Brown.
general sentiment for sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the general sentiment I agree with, because he looks great. He looks really good. Like that's the biggest thing, is that Chase Brown was, a day 3 running back who was athletic, but like not that big, not like tiny, but not like, he kind of had this weird profile. He's like sort of a college workhorse, but he didn't have the size of an NFL workhorse. and he was athletic, but he didn't really show much burst. Like a lot of the advanced stuff didn't really like him as prospect. And then he basically couldn't challenge Samaje Perine or Joe Mixon for touches as a rookie. And so you're like, the floor is kind of low here of like how good this dude is, but he looks really good. Like he looks awesome. So, and the advanced numbers have been really into him the whole way. I mean, even after this past week, so the sample's getting like less small, but he has a 56% success rate in NFL Next Gen stuff, which is the second highest in the league behind Chuba Hubbard. He's got 42 rush yards over expected, which is pretty strong, especially given that he hasn't had that much of a workload. His per attempt stuff is pretty good as well. So I think that, Chase Brown, the biggest leap of faith was that this dude, in my mind, especially as his price rose, was like, is this guy actually that good?
To me, it wasn't even
looks
about
really
being good. It's about, can he score touchdowns? Will they give him the ball inside the 5-yard line when they have Moss? And the answer is yes.
Well, I think the answer was no, unless he showed he could do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like Moss was kind of penciled in for that stuff. Like I thought that maybe he had flipped in the training camp, but then to start the season, he hadn't. So I think he had to, show enough talent to kind of like make the Bengals reconsider. And he did that like immediately.
I will say just a couple things I want to say. One, I still think Zach Moss, so he had 2 inside the 5 attempts this past week to 1 for Brown. On the season, he has 64% of the inside the 5 attempts. Brown has just 13%. So I know Chase Brown does have a couple goal line targets, so that actually undersells him a little bit. He's got some more goal line work.
Moss had a really nice receiving touchdown last week. I'm not sending Zach Moss to 0. That is not the point. That is not the point of what I'm doing. This is one of these backfields like you know what it is? It's Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah, like a much discounted version of that. I agree with, like, I was targeting both these guys in best ball, so I don't have like a dog in this fight of who I want to succeed. Honestly, I have both of them, I think, at like 10, 11, 12%, something like that. So I think they're both good. I did also want to say the Zach Moss thing. I know you guys are saying he came back in the game. I missed that. The ankle injury, just like watching it on the field, looked bad. And sometimes we see like Joe Mixon returned after his ankle injury in week 2 and has missed 3-4 weeks after that. Like he returned for 1 snap and then has now been out for like 3-4 weeks. So I think it's even more potentially bullish from a roll angle that like maybe the Zach Moss ankle swells up a bunch, over the next couple of days and he does miss some time.
There was a report this morning from Garofolo that said he should be okay for week 6.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
He avoided serious injury and is believed to be okay as the team moves into week 6. So that doesn't, maybe he's not okay for week 6, but he might miss a week or something like that.
Yeah. I'm just always skeptical of these, like, oh, the ankle sprain is mild. We heard it with Jonathan Taylor. We heard it with Joe Mixon. But that is true. Right. Okay. So it's probably on the more mild end as ankle sprains go. But that could still be like a 1-2 week audition where Chase Brown has a chance to prove himself in the pass protection side of things. I'm skeptical he'll check the boxes there, but like I think they actually might give him a chance to do it over. Like they're not playing Travion Williams. They're not playing I guess Chris Evans isn't even around anymore. Like they're not playing any of these guys. So I do wonder if we get like a couple workhorse Chase Brown games, and if he can like hold up okay in the pass pro stuff, which I think is a huge if, but if he can, like his ceiling could be even higher than we're badging it right now. So yeah, that was just my overall point. I agree with the general sentiment from Davis. I think it's a pretty big win for Chase Brown there. Let's move on to Pat's victory lap player. Pat, who do you have this week?
I'm going to say Brian Thomas, who,
nice.
Yeah, I was pretty interested in Thomas since he was drafted. First round wide receiver, very athletic, really kind of, a deep threat profile with size. There'd been some red flags that popped up for me where like, is he going to be able to separate deep, but like talking to Connor Rogers and stuff, who'd been looking at the film, was like, no, he'll be all right. So I was like, okay, I think this isn't like a Keon Coleman thing where he, is just gonna have to body guys up. He might be able to get loose as well. And part of it for me too is like, we've seen the teammate correlation stuff where it's like, if Malik Nabers is him, then Brian Thomas scoring 1 million touchdowns in that offense is probably going to be pretty good too. And yeah, just drafting he was kind of treated like the second round wide receivers in drafts. So I have a bunch of him from, that 6-7 turn. Now I didn't exclusively take him or anything. I was taking Lad McConkey and, all those dudes there, Deontay Johnson, JSN, like I mixed it up, but skipping the running backs in that range, if you could have taken a Kamara, there, that's felt pretty bad for most of the season so far. But Thomas, I wrote up in the walkthrough last week, I should have made him the cover boy. I almost made him the cover boy, and then I thought this spot's too good for Dontavian Wicks. I can't. How do I not do Dontavian Wicks? He's going to score 1 million points. If you feel bad, by the way, I scored 201 points in the SPY with the Dontavian Wicks team. So it got me too. But Brian Thomas was the other guy that I thought about. And I was going to do Life of Brian, that's a fun title, but I was like, this is a really nice setup for him. And when you have a guy who's already through 4 weeks on par with the veterans, and he's a freaking rookie, he's a guy that we were like, this dude's raw. It's going to take him a while. Like, give this guy a little bit.
Are you worried at all that the Evan Ingram PPR scam is gonna influence? I am not. I am worried. But I could see a mid IQ fantasy analyst out there being like, well, keep in mind that his production has spiked with Evan Ingram out of the lineup.
I could also see a mid IQ head coach doing something bad, and I'm afraid we have that in Jacksonville.
I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of just doing his thing right now.
Yeah.
Do you really think Press Taylor is in Trevor Lawrence's ear? Doesn't really seem like
No, not really. I agree, but this Jags coaching staff doesn't inspire a ton of confidence.
No, and that's honestly the biggest reason why I didn't go with him as a cover boy, because I was like, I wrote up this whole thing about how they're not passing on first down. They're like doing a bunch of dumb stuff that seems to be limiting Lawrence, and Lawrence is having to win in spite of them. And I think that you could even say, last week he kind of won despite, he has to pull it out at the end. Like, they're not really setting him up for success. I think he'd lost 9 straight games before this past win. So yeah, it's definitely, that is the real concern for me. I'm less concerned about the Evan Ingram part of it, but just like this offense being well designed and them featuring the right guys is definitely a little bit worrisome. But if we just like zoom out, I mean, you're talking about a first round rookie who has 2.76 yards per route run now, and is pretty clearly the number one on his team, and also has a 12.98 out, which is deep, but he's not at like 16. Like, he's not a one trick pony deep threat guy. He's operating like as a true number one. Like a 12.98 out with a big target share is like a classic alpha wide receiver type of mark. So I'm pretty excited about being able to get Thomas in the 6th, 7th round. I think especially, as we move down the stretch, he's, I think, going to help teams stand out a little bit.
I agree with this one. And you guys know me, my brain is pretty broken, and I can only think in terms of Marvin Harrison when I think about any rookie wide receiver. But let's just say it. Brian Thomas has been a better wide receiver than Marvin Harrison so far this year. I think people think of this season as like Nabers, Marvin Harrison, than everyone else from a fantasy perspective. It's actually been Nabers, tier of his own, then Thomas, and then Jefferson below Brian Thomas, both in terms of PPR scoring. He's slightly below him in targets per route run. You talked about that ADOT thing, Pat. That's what I'm worried about with Marvin Harrison a little bit. He's being used at this like crazy high ADOT, 15 average depth of target. Like that's really high compared to any other top wide receiver. So again, this isn't to bury Marvin Harrison. He's had a fine start to his rookie year, but Brian Thomas has been that dude so far. Really impressive, 24% targets per route run as a rookie with all that target competition, considering like how many of those have been deep targets. It's like a really, really valuable role he has there. So yeah, I'm all on board on this.
And he's
one.
Good. Like he's drawing
so
targets.
Fast.
He looks great out there. So yeah.
He's a fun guy to watch. Davis, any final thoughts on Brian Thomas there?
Well, you did You did skip a rookie wide receiver who did score the only touchdown for his 4-0 team last week and is about to see 9.5 targets tonight. It's just interesting.
Yeah, that is curious. Yeah. Well, we'll see on Xavier Worthy. I just would like. It'd be nice to see him.
Unironic, we are actually about to get a lot of information about him tonight.
Yeah.
Like if they're brutal tonight and he kind of Dontavian Wicks's it, not good. Really not good. Across the board.
Not good for the best ball bags, but don't like with Xavier Worthy. I mean, think about like Tyreek Hill. Like Tyreek Hill started out as a hybrid running back wide receiver for them. Like I guess he does something so well, and then he also is like skinny and unrefined in certain ways.
He is kind of getting better every week. Like to be honest, I actually, as like a Chiefs fan and a Worthy guy, I'm really not worried. I think he's probably pretty up to it. And I think Andy Reid kind of in a way, don't you feel like he's kind of a sicko? Like he's like, you're going to make me win football games with Juju Smith-Schuster, Nico Remigio, and Xavier Worthy.
He loves it.
Like challenge accepted. He's kind of like, you have no idea how many laterals and how many ring around the rosies are about to be called in this game against the Saints.
They're about to sign Sammy Watkins and have Kareem Hunt throw him a touchdown.
Yeah. Sammy Watkins is going to be a Chief by week 9. Yeah, I don't know if that's been reported yet, but that's coming.
Yeah. I do have Noah Gray starting in a $2,000 buy-in.
Same,
league
multiple leagues.
Yeah.
Multiple leagues.
So
yeah.
I'm definitely having a good season in that league. That's for sure.
Okay. So I benched Mark Andrews in 2 main events. And honestly, I wasn't even mad that he got to 9 points. I was like, whatever. Dude, like, you know what I mean?
Were you mad when you saw that 8 coming up off the ground on that touchdoon after Mark Andrews got it down to the 1? Because I was pretty mad.
Because
Charlie Kolar, man. God
I've
damn
already written those. I've already sent those bags to the bank examiner.
Yeah,
the bank examiner has already written those off.
Yeah,
I mean, he had the third most points on his team out of the tight ends. So,
Sam, do you regret carving out Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce from your don't draft elite tight ends take?
I don't remember doing that. I don't think I did that.
Don't take elite tight ends unless it's the very worst one.
You're calling Travis Kelce the very worst?
No, I'm calling Mark Andrews the very worst one. I'm giving you credit for also having Kelce in there, who hasn't been good, but at least hasn't been Andrews.
Yeah. Let me pull up the Andrews stuff.
It's not good.
11%.
You don't even need to pull it up because zero wouldn't be that much of a difference.
Yeah, 11% Mark Andrews does not feel great right now. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, it's no
God. Okay, I'll move on to mine. We talked about this to start the show. Pat was not here, so I'll keep it quick so people don't have to listen to us talk about Rico Dowdle twice. He's my victory lap. This one's pretty simple. I think, like, honestly, if you want to read the case on Rico Dowdle, just read Pat's article before the season. I think that explains it pretty well. The bet on Rico Dowdle was never that he was some superior talent. It's just that he was clearly, in my opinion, a much better talent than, close to 30-year-old Ezekiel Elliott, 5'3", 170-pound Deuce Vaughn. There's nobody else in this roster that posed any kind of threat for the early down work. It did take a couple weeks. They did try to mix in Zeke early on. They tried out their other options because, again, Rico Dowdle is not some amazing talent. But fast forward to week 5, he's got 70% of the rushing attempts, 50% of the snaps. He kind of, got his way to low-end RB1 utilization status there with that type of role. And he got 100 yards and a touchdown, caught a pass downfield. He actually has 20% targets per route run on the season in his limited pass catching work. So I do think that's something he can do a little bit more of than he showed so far. But yeah, it's, again, I'm not lying to you guys, and I'm not saying that Rico Dowdle is like some amazing running back. Like on any other NFL team, I would not have been pumped about drafting Rico Dowdle. But
Zeke is at 0. Dalvin Cook has not been activated from the practice squad. Deuce Vaughn, they are already done with the experiment. It's a clear win. Clear win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't feel good getting there. Like to me, it's sort of a reminder that like God, some like fantasy football can be such a stressful game because like Rico, I do think it's a clear win, but like I thought he was a clear loss like 3 weeks ago. Like it's just like God, this guy's not good. And he's splitting down with Zeke, and the offense sucks.
there's been a lot of it's so Jover, we're so Baracks this year.
Yeah.
Like Daltavian Wicks, I've changed my mind 4 times I think already, and I'm currently at it's Jover, but we'll see.
Actually, it looks pretty Jover. Dude, your tweet about him not being able to use his hands has been pretty good.
Yeah,
would have been nice to see him catch the ball. That would have been fun.
I was I was very all in on Wicks, talking about him briefly, but I will say, like, in my article, I'm talking to people, I did say multiple times, like, you guys don't understand how bad this dude's hands have been. Like, this isn't like normal drops. It's literally half of his targets on the season. He's straight up dropping the ball, like slipping and doing weird things, or like not coming down with contested catches. Like, please fix this, Daltavian Wicks. You're way too good of a route runner to have this shitty of hands. It doesn't make any sense.
What do you guys think of Christian Watson, low advance rate, high playoff win rate? Is Christian Watson the answer now?
I think Romeo Doubs might be the answer.
Well, he's getting suspended for personal reasons. I guess it's just Jaden.
Yeah.
Jaden was the answer. Remember when we thought there was too much target competition for Jaden Reed to do anything? That doesn't seem to be the case now.
No, the friends and family night snap counts. Those are always something you really want to look very powerfully into when you're evaluating a player. Let's move on to bag defending. I'll start with you here, Pat. Who do you want to bag defend this week?
All right. Well, so I've got to save up. Now, there's reports that we might get Drake Maye this week. Okay. So I can't victory lap that yet because he's been not very good when he's actually been on the field for a hot second. And he probably won't be very good going against the Texans because they have a pretty decent defense. So we're probably going to be bag defending Drake Maye this time next week. But for now, I'm going to bag defend Jalen Polk, who almost scored a touchdown. Foot comes down out of bounds.
Second time he's done that, by the way.
Yeah, he went to the Garrett Wilson school of attention to detail. It's not ideal. But
wait, can we talk about quickly how dumb that rule is? That if you're toe tapping on the sidelines, all you need to get is your toe down. But if you're toe tapping the back of the end zone, you have to get your full heel down. It's like a different rule for that. So dumb.
I know.
Sorry to interrupt.
The annoying
Don't
thing,
not a great rule.
Well, you want to know a double annoying thing about the rule is that if your hand lands first in a way that obviously would help you secure the ball, you're out. But if you just get your toes down and land your ass on the ground because your toes were down first, it's a catch. It's a very stupid rule. It's a very dumb rule.
Yeah. But anyway, I have got a ton of Polk. He's been horrible this year. He's got 0.58 yards per route run. It's super Jover. Except if we get Drake Maye, I just think that breathing some life into the offense here will happen, I think, pretty quickly because you're seeing the stuff of there are 2 camps on the Drake Maye thing. One of the camps is that he's going to be really inconsistent and get crushed behind this offensive line. And that's true. But when he's not doing that, there's going to be some life in the offense. It's going to actually have some highs as opposed to just this grinded out awful slog that we got with Brissett. So this was the idea here is that, we were going to get Maye early-ish into the season and that his weapons would actually benefit from his ability to make plays. So we haven't seen that yet, but I think we're going to see it starting in week 6. And so bag defending, drafting his number 1 receiver.
I like that. This was also mine this week. I fully agree with this. And also I have a ton of Polk, so it's probably a little bit of Cope in there as well. The other notes I'll add in is the return of Kendrick Bourne. Although I do expect Bourne's role to be bigger than it was in week 5, the return of Bourne did not impact Polk's route rate at all. He was actually up to 97% route participation. Awesome. So yeah, that was good to see. And then, just like a Brissett Maye take, like my Jacoby Brissett take is if he could be like a game manager as like a backup quarterback on a team with good weapons, he could be pretty good. Like we've seen that the past couple of years, but this environment where the O-line is terrible, the wide receivers are terrible, and he has to try to go like hero ball mode is not who Jacoby Brissett is. And that sounds really obvious, but like I actually think some of the limitations of the Patriots weapons and O-line could actually benefit from like the YOLO play style of Drake Maye. He's going to make a ton of mistakes. He'll probably make a ton of sacks, but at least there can be some fun playmaking here. Jacoby Brissett can just not get it done from the playmaking aspect of things. So I am excited to see how that unlocks the Patriots weapons. I think even Hunter Henry here is someone I'm a little bit more excited about, just like a little bit more scramble drill situation stuff with Drake Maye under center. Maybe he can get open for a couple more bigger chunk plays. So yeah, I'm with Pat on this one.
Yeah, you would trade interceptions and lost fumbles for some throws that produce fantasy points. Like just like adding some volatility, what includes negative outcomes, would still be like so good for the skill players in this offense. Like it's just, what do they score 10 points against the Dolphins? Like you just can't like score 20 and lose by 20. That's way better for us. You know, don't lose by 7 and score 10 or whatever.
Yeah. The one thing I will say on Polk is the whole offseason, I was like, there's no way this can fail. He's going to have a huge role. The only way he can fail is if he's Jonathan Mingo. And then I pull up the per route stats and I'm like, oh God, did I just draft Jonathan Mingo 2.0? So I'm not calling him that yet, but I will say the one hesitation I have with this take is just like, besides the almost TD there, actually, okay, he said 2 like almost huge plays, which I think are skewing the stats. It was versus San Francisco. He had that sideline catch where I think he got in bounds. They didn't call that complete. The almost touchdown here. So that's skewing things. Those 2 plays would make him look better, but he hasn't looked great as an individual player.
He has 74 yards through 5 weeks. That's that's not great.
That's not great.
His entire season long stat line, 9, 74, and 1 would be like a pretty good week. So it's like not great, but hopefully we get Drake Maye added some value. And you know, Davis, you've talked about like Drake Maye did not have a good O-line in college. So I'm hoping the O-line stuff is not as dire for him as it has been for Brissett.
Yeah.
Yeah. That literally like it's like, well, maybe we have bad habits getting learned, and maybe this is bad for Drake Maye long term, but he's gonna come firing. Like
that's 2025 Pat's problem.
That's 2025 Pat's problem, 100%.
Yeah, you can find a way to sell him in Dynasty for like Shakur Sanders or something at that point. You'll figure out a way out.
Yeah.
All right, Davis. Unless you have anything final words to say on the Polk stuff, who is your bag defending player this week?
You know, mine is actually kind of related to the Brian Thomas Jr. I'm going to bag defend Romeo Doubs because I think the thesis, I think ultimately probably it's going to have played out too slow to help our advance rates. Like we might already be. It's the classic like, oh, my 10th place teams just moved to 6th place this week. But Caleb looks a lot better. Now, granted, the Carolina Panthers are not an NFL caliber defense, but we have like multiple games of him kind of stringing things together, figuring it out on the run. The run game is better, which is like such a, you know, it's obviously what a ball knower would say, but just like a lot less 3rd and 10s, 2nd and 12 type situations. That is a huge help to a rookie quarterback. Komet looks pretty good. DJ Moore, I mean, I got to say, if we're victory lapping, I think I was definitely right to be hammering DJ Moore there. Like DJ Moore is just a great football player, but Keenan is pretty clearly like
Jover,
32-year-old wide receiver with lower body injuries Sam, people are always in your mentions about this. Like, look how good he was last year. It's like, yeah, he was really good on a team that fired everyone associated with the team. They were so good that anyone, like the Chargers fired their like lunch ladies because everyone on the team was so bad. Like he can't. I think he can like get open and do it, but he can't do it all game consistently.
You should have victory lapped the Fat Keenan narrative because that narrative's looking pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he really will work for Condé Nast now.
Yeah, the Keenan stuff, like it's one of those things where I dove deep into the pre-snap motion stuff this past year, and Keenan was the guy who led the league in percentage of his yardage, receptions that was from like schemed fast motion usage, which is one of those data points where like there's not I haven't looked at that for a while. I can't say like I confidently know how to interpret that. The other players on that list are like Jaden Reed, Deebo Samuel, like guys like that where I actually take it as a bullish indicator. For Keenan, maybe it was just my bias. I was saying like this is actually a pretty big red flag that the environment, the coaching situation is completely changed now. He's not on a Chargers team with Justin Herbert who gets the ball out on time. And he's not surrounded by, Darius Davis and Quentin Johnston running outside routes now. He's now on a team with like DJ Moore, Romeo Doubs, a rookie quarterback who's not necessarily known for like hitting, guys on time in the short area of the field. So yeah, I was just really skeptical of the Keenan Allen. Like, I totally acknowledge he was on pace last year for like 140 catches, like 1,000 something yards. I totally like got the bull case, but I was just not buying that was something that was sticky moving year over year. But we'll see. It's still early for him.
I just want to say on Keenan, I just want us to remember that when he's going in the 15th round, is Quinn Ewers clear number 1 next year, that we should draft a little.
I was going to say that. Yeah. I think I'll be in. Now, where do you have Quinn Ewers playing? And is he the Cleveland quarterback?
I think he's the Panthers quarterback.
Dude, Quinn Ewers with Xavier Legette. I think
that's true. They've got Deontay. Yeah, you're right. It needs to be a tear down. So the Browns probably is the answer. Although they'll have Jeudy, so he'll be there. Although Jeudy might not really be on the field. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I could see him reviving in a worse Chargers situation, but it looks pretty over.
Yeah. Back to the Rome side of things, I do agree with Davis there. Also, probably my bias. I drafted a shit ton of Rome, so you can definitely point to that. But yeah, I think the Bears are figuring this thing out. I actually thought your walkthrough article last week, Pat, was really interesting, where I just kind of wanted to write off Caleb Williams as like dog shit through the first 4 weeks, and you pulled up some interesting stuff about how he's shown consistent, steady improvement over the first 4 weeks of the season, and that obviously continued in week 5.
Hyper accurate with all his short area stuff, which I think is pretty bullish.
Yeah. So let's see him against a real defense. Who do the Bears play next week? Oh, the Jags. Okay, so that's not a real defense. That should be good. But they get the Jags and then Commanders in back-to-back weeks. I guess Commanders have been playing a little bit better on defense.
A little bit better, but
no, they haven't.
Well,
the Cleveland Browns do not count. No result.
Yeah, that's
Cleveland
true.
Browns count.
The Cardinals. They played better against the Cardinals.
The results against Kyler Murray count? Like, I don't know.
They
actually don't know either. Do they?
Come
Okay.
on. Yeah. They beat the 49ers last week. Kyler was pretty fun.
They beat the 49ers because Kyle Shanahan was like born without, I think he just like maybe doesn't have adrenaline in his brain or something. It's hard for me to say what his deal is because he's clearly a football genius, but like he loses games his team has absolutely no business losing.
Can we talk about Zach Taylor, who's got whatever this is plus $1 million? He played for a 56-yard field goal like it was a chip shot. Like it was a chip shot.
Well, to be fair,
that was the most cowardly.
This year.
Yeah. To be fair, I've never seen a red zone, a field goal over 55 yards miss on red zone this year. They have 100% accuracy. Yeah. So I kind of take the Taylor side.
It's on red zone. Prime time, he gets it closer. I'm on red zone, baby. That was crazy. I could not believe that. They're running up the gut, like not even attempting a pass there. Like they were on the 10.
Dude.
I was so I literally was just like, and I've been rooting for the Bengals. I had this lineup I mentioned was a Bengals double stack, which is why I was especially aggrieved with this. Throw the ball, but they just they wouldn't do it. So when he lined up for that kick, I was like, miss it, miss this kick. I want to see the Ravens. I want to see the Ravens punish them just like they did. So, God, that's worse than I think anything Shanahan's done, but very much in that camp.
Yeah, giving Shanahan a tiny bit of credit. The kicker Jake Moody was ruled out with an ankle injury.
He played for a 19-yard field goal that the punter kicked at the end of the second half.
Yeah, but I guess I was thinking like for a punter who like doesn't kick field goals, isn't there a big difference between like a 20-yard field goal and like a 40-yard field goal?
What I'm saying is that he played for a field goal in an opportunity when he had a touchdown.
I see what you're saying.
I'm saying he had multiple opportunities to play for touchdowns and he didn't do it.
They also
Yeah.
threw a couple times. There was a 3rd and 3, I think, where they had this really dumb Purdy drop back pass called. It's like, you don't have a kicker. Like, just go, run the ball. Now, I also had Jordan Mason on the slide, so this is extremely biased take. But just run the ball, and you can run it again on 4th. Shanahan hates to go for it on 4th, but and maybe that's maybe he knew if he got a yard, he'd have to go for it on 4th and do something sharp. But yeah, Shanahan needs someone to just I don't know if he needs to go to a course on just this one part of your games is so square.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Because he's such a genius. He could why is there a thing that we know better than Shanahan? This guy knows football better than 99% of humans on earth. And yet we can sit here and watch the game and be like, well, that's really stupid.
These guys need I think it's Amico that has this tweet of all the Shanahan coaching tree guys are genius schemers and play callers, but they need a coaching assistant that just handles in-game decision making on 4th down and clock management, just the little things like that. Even Andy Reid, I think, has this issue.
He's gotten better
too.
He's gotten better. He used to be.
He makes some boneheaded mistakes in this area as well.
He got better. He got better because he got gifted God's greatest son.
That's true. That's true.
Andy Reid said, "Oh, I have the literal greatest dude to ever do this. He just converts these for fun, so I might as well." And he still doesn't always do it. He's kicked multiple field goals this year inside the 1-yard line with Pat as his quarterback.
Yeah, although the guy playing Patrick Mahomes is not a great actor this year. I'd like Patrick Mahomes to return from whatever sabbatical he's on.
I've been workshopping this take, and I bet I'll be able to sell Sam on this one. The worst thing to happen to Pat's career long term, him breaking every record, all of Brady's records, everything, was having to win the way he won last year. He basically has PTSD. He's like, you have no idea the dark places I had to go to win a Super Bowl with Sky Moore as my wide receiver 2 and Justin Watson as my wide receiver 3. He had to go so dark, and he can't get himself out of it.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's the Brady career, but he started in the middle. His first years were 2007, and he's just going nuts. It's amazing. And then he's going, now it's 2001. What we've returned to, the Deion Branch years. It's just, I don't know. I would like us to go back to the high-flying era as soon as possible.
I think we're about to have the 2019 era Brady, where the team trades a 2nd-round pick for Mohamed Sanu. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be, Romeo Doubs or who that's going to be.
It's going to be Darius
Slayton, dude.
He could be the Mohamed Sanu, a real-life NFL draft 2nd-round pick traded for Mohamed Sanu.
It's Mooney. It's Mooney. Bill Belichick would trade a 2nd-round pick for Mooney right now.
Darnell Mooney
Mooney's good.
Rocket ships, dude.
See, this is what I'm saying. Sam is hoping the Patriots trade a 2nd-round pick for Mooney.
Dude, I'd give him first with that. What we use our 1st-round picks on, just trade a 1st-round pick with Don on Mooney.
Come on, man. Use it on May.
Well, besides that one, there's God.
Yeah.
It's been a rough stretch.
Mac Jones or Darnell Mooney? Which one? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, come on. It's not even close. It's not even close. God, Mac Jones. It's always funny when I see him on the Jaguar sideline. I'm like, oh, that's
it's
what
so
Mac
funny.
Jones is doing these days.
It is funny. Yeah.
Anyways, that was a great draft class. Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, just bunch of good quarterbacks there from that generational class. Let's move on to our panic button players from this week. I'm gonna go first. I got my bag defense stolen from me with Julian Polk, so I'm gonna go first here on panic button. Mine, and I'll be clear in how I clarify this, but my panic button this week that I finally came to the realization of is Bijan and Breece were not good top 6 or 7 picks.
Stole mine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is far from a full-on panic. These guys, if we're redrafting today, I'm probably taking them in the mid-second, maybe even 1-2 turn. I'd have to actually map it out. But this is not oh, they suck, they're busts. No. I just pivoted at the end of the season to trying to go for hero running back builds, taking Bijan and Breece over Chase, Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra. I didn't have like crazily skewed exposures, but I ended up with 12% Breece, 14% Bijan, and then just 8% of Jefferson, 8% of Chase, 5% of Amon-Ra, 5% of Tyreek Hill. So not horrible, but certainly would I trade 15% Jefferson? Would I make that swap with Jefferson and those running backs 100%? Like that is clear cut right now. And I think also hammering the hero running back builds, that got me off of, like, I wasn't taking as much James Cook, Kenneth Walker, guys like that as I was early in the draft season, because like, oh, I got my hero RB build with Bijan and Breece. Don't need to take the plunge on those guys. So I think that's hurt me a bit as well. Just in terms of like the role and utilization, I think what's hurting these guys is I thought that Breece and Bijan really had a chance to separate as like the very few backs in the NFL that were getting these crazy workhorse roles. And the roles have just been like fine. Like you look at utilization score on fantasy points, Bijan is 11th amongst running backs. Breece is 7th, but that doesn't even really tell the full story because they're just like, frankly, like this sounds like a hot take, but like just strictly looking at their roles, like what they're doing with Bijan in Atlanta is not that different from what they're doing with like DeAndre Swift in Chicago, with Tony Pollard in Tennessee. Like he just doesn't have this like crazy workhorse role above what these other middling talents have. And I think that's frankly hurting him. There's been some weird stuff, big plays called back by penalty. I think just touchdowns not going his way that are going to change for both of these guys. But yeah, man, like I think it was a mistake to like always take him above Chase and Jefferson in the first round this year. But curious what you guys think of that, if you think I'm overreacting too much to
I think you're overreacting to Bijan when actually, if you wanted to have rose-colored glasses, you could say Kirk Cousins kind of coming back is super bullish. Bijan was playing on a short week, very clearly was injured in my mind, like very clearly the way they were using him. So he only got used in outside zone runs. And why would you do that? Windhorst. You don't want him getting piled up on. You don't want him having to push through the pile. You want to get him in a space, see if he can run in a straight line and make something happen. Algier handled all the stuff in between the tackles. Now, if he has 18 carries for 62 yards and 4 receptions for 17 yards against the Panthers this week, then yes, full on panic button. It's not coming back. It's Jover. And Bijan Robinson becomes the Kyle Pitts of Adrian Peterson's like very, very quickly. Breece.
It took you a while to get to that line. That was a lot of
it was worth the walk.
But I got there.
You got there.
I got there in the end.
You got there.
Now Breece, I got to be honest, I don't really see a way back because the issue now is they play so slow. They play so fucking slow. They're not dedicated to getting him the PPR scam stuff the way that Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and these guys were dedicated to getting him the PPR scam stuff. And you have the specter of, well, he might just not get carries from the 3-yard line anymore if Braylon can do it. So
I think there definitely is a way back for Breece. My thinking is this almost has to be the low point of the season. Now, does that mean he's going to end up being worth like the 106 or the 105? No, it does not mean that. But I do think that this is probably as bad as we're going to feel because and to me, the way back is the PPR scam stuff. His targets have been 6, 8, 5, 5, 4. He's been involved consistently in the passing game. We also did see Braylon Allen get stuffed on a couple short yardage runs last week. Has not been like when you go to the advanced numbers, Braylon Allen's been like totally whatever. He hasn't been. Now the eye test, I'm like, this dude looks really good, but like I wonder if we're just like liking his running style to some extent because he hasn't.
I find that a lot of the times with running backs, by the way, where sometimes I watch him and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's killing it, and his advanced stuff will be like fine. Yeah, I find that quite often.
Yeah, so I'm this isn't negative on Braylon Allen. I think Braylon Allen's good, and I think he's going to be a thorn in Breece Hall's side. But there was, especially after Breece Hall is like combined for like 5 points in 2 weeks, you're like, is this dude even like their starting running back now? Like, what's going on? And I think he's still going to be very clearly like the high upside way to play that backfield the rest of the way. But this kind of level of boom bust is just should not be in the cards for what we paid. And, to have to talk about it like, well, he's going to get used a lot as a receiving back. Like, that sounds cool if we draft him in the 3rd round, but it's pretty awful to have paid the 105 for. So it's definitely, I think I am panicking on Breece, but I guess I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's completely over.
No.
I think in part they scored 9 points against Denver and then 17 points against the Vikings. And to Davis's point, they play super slow. Rodgers has never been, for whatever reason, he seems like a very confident guy, but he never pushes his advantage. He's the better quarterback on the field in almost every game he's played. And yet they are trying to limit the number of drives that each team gets for some reason. I've never understood it. But I think it's hurting the offense pretty clearly.
Yeah. I think what it is in the Rodgers point, not defending this is like smart but like what he thinks is that his advantage is being able to call audibles to the line of scrimmage, call different plays, call out different hot routes to wide receivers because he thinks he has the ability to read a defense so precisely.
He thinks if he tells all 10 of his teammates what to do on a play, it can't possibly go wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, he should watch some film for like the last, his entire career. Like, what doesn't,
They don't have a film room inside of his ayahuasca cave.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. So I'm like, dude, if you played fast, like, you might get an extra like 0.75 drives per game, and like that probably is meaningfully impacting your career winnings. Someone pointed out that the target advantage is going down and stuff. Yeah, the targets are decreasing, but we're looking at a dude who's completely dropped off in scoring. He had 1.8 standard fantasy points 2 weeks ago. So to get 5 targets in that game, I think is still like a little bit of a reason to say, hey, we shouldn't like completely panic about this dude. His role has not evaporated. He's not been running great, not been making plays on an offense that's also really struggling. So who do they play this week? I think what we could really use is a nice
The Bills.
It's not ideal, but it's not horrible.
It's not bad. It's not horrible.
Yeah.
Monday night on that one, we get 2 more primetime games for Aaron Rodgers over the next couple of weeks. Monday night against the Bills, and then Sunday night the week after that against the Steelers. So that'll be some fun Twitter live tweeting. Either way, either if Aaron Rodgers is good or terrible, hopefully terrible, that'll certainly be fun to watch in prime time. Let's move on here to your panic button player, Davis.
I had a couple different ones here that I thought I'm gonna do a facetious one that I think is directionally informative in terms that it tells us we don't know shit. And my panic button is going to be Justin Jefferson in a very facetious way, because the thing we were worried about with Justin Jefferson, his quarterback play is going to be terrible. How could he possibly get there? But it's so illustrative of the fact that we don't know anything. The reason that Justin Jefferson is only like the 3rd best wide receiver in fantasy thus far has nothing to do with his quarterback play, has nothing to do with his ability, has nothing to do with Kevin O'Connell. It's that his team is simply too good. They have trailed for 3 minutes and 34 seconds of the entire season through 5 games. That is the 2nd best record ever since the NFL has existed. That is the 2nd best time that a team has trailed. I can't even remember when it would have been.
So you're trying to say that you were too right on Justin Jefferson? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm saying well, obviously I was right, but I'm going to end up not. I think in the end I'm going to end up getting 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns in what should have been an 1,800-yard, 14 touchdown season, probably, because I mean, it's week 5.
The defense is too fucking good. Yeah.
Darnold hasn't topped 28 pass attempts in a game yet. Like, it's just it is what it is, and that seems like the direction that we're heading.
Yeah, this was kind of my take the past couple of weeks. Like, now we have the hamstring injury to Nico, and obviously the Rashee Rice injury happened, but just purely because of that, I was like barely tie-breaking to these other guys over Jefferson, like CeeDee Lamb, Nico, Rashee Rice, like just barely same tier. So I did have that similar take of like, man, this Vikings defense doesn't seem like a fluke to me of how well they played so
your
far.
hope, if you're someone like me, is that Brian Flores has been in this position many times before. Brian Flores has been a defensive coordinator for like 25 years, and he kind of always gets found out over the course of the year. He's very aggressive. He's like insanely aggressive, and you can only play that way for someone literally just said in the chat. Kind of basically what happens is his blitz patterns sort of get figured out, and then it ends up being because if you're blitzing, but the quarterback knows what the blitz is and knows who's unguarded, that's like how you get that's how you get picked apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because Rodgers, maybe this is just a Rodgers has fallen off thing, but like traditionally you don't really blitz Rodgers because he's pretty good at figuring that out and punishing
the Jets' offensive line is terrible.
Because the Broncos blitzed him with success in week 4. So I actually expected the Flores to do the same. And I'm pulling it up. It looks like it worked well. Rodgers was 6th worst against the blitz in week 5. And he was blitzed on 21 of his dropbacks, which is the most of any quarterback last week. So they showed zero respect for him. Zero respect.
Maybe it makes more sense to blitz Rodgers now because he can't move. Like
right.
it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to blitz a guy who can't just like sidestep the blitz.
He's also not dialed in with Adams or he doesn't have like Lazard is probably his
Lazard.
Yeah. Wilson is a safety valve for sure, but they just don't have the same connection that he did with Adams, which is obviously a crazy high bar. But
yeah. Surely Garrett Wilson's insanely inefficient yards per target. It's got to rebound eventually. He can't do this his whole career.
Hey, who cares, man? Give him 30 targets a game and we're good.
Yeah, that's true. If he gets 22 targets, it's not going to matter. Yeah, it's not.
4 yards target's fine.
Yeah.
Great.
God, that's insane. Also in that game, random side note, but Jefferson, I think he was only charted with like 14 targets, but he drew like 5, 6, 7 DPIs. I forget how
he was called the defender guarding him was called for 6 penalties in the game against the Jets.
Wow.
Yeah. I forget how that shows up in the stat sheet. I feel like it doesn't show up as a target.
So
does it
show up as a target?
Again, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And
it's a no play.
No target. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were doing a bit. No, it's white.
No. I mean, in terms of targets, yeah, it doesn't.
If you're targeted on a play that you get DPI'd, it doesn't count as a target.
Doesn't count.
That's right.
14 targets and 5 penalties.
That's insane.
Obviously he is the best. Like I'm not it's so funny. Like people are so beholden to the moment. Like Liam sent the tweet about Jamar Chase this morning, and it's like sometimes you do have to zoom out on the chart, bro. Like, there's a reason that Jamar Chase has more 3 for 30s in his career now than Justin Jefferson will ever have. Partly it's that his coach is an idiot. Zach Taylor is the worst.
Come on, man.
All right. Final panic button here. Pat, who you got?
This one's probably overdue, but if everyone got mad at me when I took Rachaad White a few weeks ago because I wasn't drafting him, and I was tempted to take Travis Etienne, who's Tank Big Sweep backup now, who I'm not drafting, who I didn't draft at all. But Jerry Jeudy, I was drafting. I did draft Jerry Jeudy. I drafted him. I saw Jerry Judy's name and I clicked it.
What's the fucking point?
I clicked Jerry Jeudy, guys. And Sacrilegious, the entire time in our chat was like, Jerry Jeudy is not even a football player. This guy gives up as soon as he steps out on the field. Basically, imagine Steve Smith's attitude towards Jerry Jeudy. That's what Sacrilegious was. Weighing in very regularly on Jerry Jeudy. Just completely correct. And I still drafted him. I still drafted Jerry Jeudy, guys. Doesn't feel good. Pulled up his stat line from last week. He had 3 targets, 1 reception, 16 yards. This man has 1.09 yards per route run. Somehow outperforming Amari Cooper.
I was going to say, in the context of a Deshaun Watson-led offense, that's actually pretty good. I'm bullish on Jerry.
Yeah, Amari Cooper's only at 1 yards per route run. So, this can double as a panic button on Amari, Deshaun. I guess. But I think Amari will give us a couple big weeks, and Jerry Jeudy just won't. He just won't. That was just a
Just
total
wait
waste
until
of a pick.
wait until Jeudy gets in shape, dude. Just like he's been on the treadmill. Like wait until he gets conditioned. Kareem, I wouldn't give up so easily.
On Jerry Jeudy?
Did you
Remember
see
when he was supposed to be a route runner? Remember what happened? Like,
buddy, I've been out on Jerry Jeudy like from the moment I watched him play in the NFL. He just is one of those guys who he's got no dog. I mean, really, like I think he's probably very good, but he just like the dog levels are.
you know what he is?
Non-existent.
He's the Sky Moore of Jacoby Myers.
No,
Yeah.
that's not how it's done. He's like the Sky Moore of.
He wasn't drafted high enough.
Yeah,
but his game is very much Jacoby
yes.
Myers.
Yeah, it's like he's the
Sky Moore of CeeDee Lamb's.
Sky Moore of CeeDee Lamb's. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost did Tank Dell as my panic button, but I wanted to address this real quick. I'm actually not really panicking about Tank Dell because I think the CJ Stroud plays like a C- NFL quarterback and they win anyways, and Stephon Diggs leads the team in targets. It's like it just doesn't feel that tenable to keep giving Diggs all these targets, and for like, isn't Stroud just going to start to play better?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think so. I don't think it's panic button on Dell. I will say the amount of times I had to get in arguments with people this offseason who wanted to do the contrarian, like, oh, Tank Dell is actually the better wide receiver here than Nico Collins. That, let's be honest.
More than Steph Diggs. I always had such a hard time with flipping Diggs.
I never got that. Like, I went back because I thought I was missing something because everyone's like, oh, he was like out projecting him when they're on the field. He was better. Like, I look back at the numbers and like wrote a whole article about it, and like that just wasn't true. Like, Nico Collins was like clearly out targeting, not clearly, but he was out targeting Tank Dell when they're on the field together last year. He's also 7 inches taller, faster, 40 pounds heavier. Like, come on, like what was that contrarian take? Can we admit that was a terrible contrarian take?
It doesn't feel like a great one now, does it?
No,
yeah.
it was a
I
bad
was in on Dell for sure, but
I was definitely that guy for a little while.
I was in on Dell. I'm not saying I was out on Dell. I would just get triggered. Again, I just create these like straw men in my head.
Did Dell have the tightrope
arguments? But
did Dell?
Can we bring on an injury expert and just ask them if it's good to not break your leg? I feel like breaking your leg is maybe worse than
I feel like
I was
weirdly
led to believe.
The injury experts always tell me it's good when you break your leg. Like they told me it was
It
good when
seems
Tony
like-
Pollard broke his leg.
Don't
it's
worry.
Good when Mark Andrews broke his leg. I've heard enough of this. Like it's got to be bad.
It seems like breaking your leg is actually pretty bad. That's like what I'm starting to think. And I'm not a doctor, but it does seem like the guys who have broken their legs who were not as explosive returning from their broken leg. But that's just my,
Again, we're not doctors. Yeah, we're not doctors, so
Yeah.
we can't really say with confidence. But
I would prefer, as a layman, purely as a layman, the guys who haven't broken their legs, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I do actually like the injury doctors. I think there's a lot of them that do good work. I just feel like sometimes like this is not a shot at them. Like we just don't.
No, this is not a shot at them. I'm purely joking around.
We're clearly joking around. Just like an earnest point though is like we clearly do not have all the information on all these injuries, and like I feel like sometimes I just don't bake in like the downside risk of like something unknown bad that we don't know about the injury. Like that just seems to happen way more than we want to admit. Like this season's been extreme in that, but like the Kyle Pitts MCL injury, for instance, like clearly was not just like a run of the mill MCL injury, but like the risk.
Honestly, Sam, that injury might not have like even happened. Like he's totally healthy now. Like I don't like. Did the MCL affect him at all? Like he's healthy now.
Yeah,
and
I don't know.
He's got the lowest open score in the league.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I mean, he might have always just been bad, but I'm just saying, like in
yeah.
general, like, fuck. I guess I'm just tired of getting burned on these return from injury guys that just turned to dust. It's so.
I really wish, because Mark Andrews has essentially been benched for Charlie Kolar, and it feels like it feels like him breaking his leg might have contributed to that.
He hasn't been benched for Charlie Kolar. Okay, just let's fictional.
He's just been outperformed by him. but not
Yeah.
bench.
Fictional universe.
He
Let's
hasn't
say-
been best. He's just on the bench while Kolar catches sick plays down the sideline and then scores touchdowns.
Let's say- Hypothetically, Andrews was the one who caught that long Kolar catch and run and the touchdown. So he has like 22 PPR points or whatever. Is the we're so back like spiking it in the nerd's face?
Yeah,
Like or is it like Kyle Pitts, where Kyle Pitts just had, what do you have, 7 for 78 or something, and everyone's like, nope, not buying it. What I tend to think I probably like can like with Pitts, I'm like, I'm not playing Pitts this week against the Panthers. Like, I mean,
No.
you start him where you have him, but like he's not back.
No, it took. Again, we don't have to turn this into a Kyle Pitts thing because people just probably hate my Kyle Pitts takes at this point. But it took him 55 pass attempts, and Kyle Pitts still had less targets than Ray McLeod, less targets than Darnell Mooney. That's been the case the whole season. So
I know. He had like a
high.
12% target share with yeah. What was his target share?
It was like 13, like no joke, like 13%.
Was it really? Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. 15%, which on the season it's at 14%. So
Yeah.
it wasn't any different than it's been all season. It was just Falcons threw a ton, which, yeah. But anyways, end here on a positive note on Kyle Pitts. We got to get.
It didn't break his leg. Pitts did not break his leg.
Didn't break his leg.
And that's foolish.
He just
That's
runs
foolish.
like it.
All right, guys. We'll be back next week for another in-season ADP chasing. Other things coming up on the Ship Chasing channel this week. We got stat chasing as always. That's comes on Tuesday nights with Drico and Zach. Really fun show there. Last time I checked, they're doing like 3-hour, 4-hour long shows. Just truly sick stuff going on there, but really informative. You guys should definitely check that out. And then Pat, anything for the Shipcast this Thursday? Any announcements on guests or anything like that? Are you guys still figuring it out?
Still figuring it out, but
Okay.
yeah, Shipcast Thursday, watch along. It's pretty epic. This last one was about as bad a beat as I could imagine.
It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad.
But the beautiful part of it is that many, and I know not everyone, and I apologize if you're not one of the people who benefited, but many people who did tail us on it got the Bucky rushing line 1 yard lower than us. And of course we lost by 1 yard. So the silver lining was that many of the Shipcast viewers actually binked while they watched us tilt our faces off, which is a pretty sweet spot to be in. You know, you're like, I've got this winning pick 'em, and this is the very entertaining as these guys who gave me the picks are losing. So we'll be back, the sequel, hopefully with better results for us next Thursday, this Thursday.
Awesome. And Davis, I know you're not streaming today, but anything else going on your channel or anything otherwise you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll be live. I'll be live every day this week at some point. So make sure you're subscribed there. And yeah, all the good stuff.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, I'll have my waivers video on Monday. Article this week on Established Run. Same stuff as always. Other than that, we will see you guys next week.